Secretly, I did a test on a newborn baby and found that he was not mine. I am going to tell this at the family gathering. She had a baby recently. 2 weeks ago. My wife started getting really weird with her phone about mid-pregnancy, and she's told me about her coworker who brags about sleeping with a ton of women, including married women, and even bragged about fathering a child and another man unknowingly raising it. I think he's a POS, but I thought my wife was telling me this as a way of conveying how horrible he is. He's the only man she spends any time with other than me, and has a history of this, so I'm assuming the baby is his, but I could be wrong. I don't really care at this point whose it is. I just know it's not mine. Anyways, how I know? I ordered 2 well-known paternity tests leading up to the delivery of the baby and hid them well. I administered and sent them in, and both. I used 2 just to kill the chance of a false positive or negative or something like that. Paranoia came back showing the child was not mine. I'm doing my best to keep up a good act and pretend I'm the committed father/husband she thinks I am. I'm so disgusted and resentful through. I feel a strong urge to get ahead of this because I've been divorced before, also cheated on in that marriage. Amazing, I'm kind of numb to it now, and the ex-wife told everyone that I cheated and that she was the victim, and it turned into a huge mess where most people still don't even believe me, and she told everyone that the screenshots I had proving it were Photoshop/generated, and she generated her own too to make it look like I was sexting some woman who doesn't exist. It's because I gave her the benefit of the doubt and thought she'd be a good person. Instead, she got upset she was caught and immediately told everyone that I cheated instead of her, and then it became her word versus mine. I don't think that will happen here since there's a baby to prove the infidelity, but I still want to be careful. Given the extreme situation in that I've been misled for almost a year, what I really want to ask is, would it be reasonable for me to pull both of our families and best friends over and confront her with witnesses and the paternity tests, divorce papers, and a packed bag? I just want to make sure nothing is communicated incorrectly to anyone. To be fully honest, I don't care if the attendees think this is immature/petty of me. The reputation sting of miscommunication has hurt me before, and many people who I considered close friends think I cheated on my ex, when she cheated on me, and won't talk to me ever again. Her family is local, so I think she can stay with them after the event, but at this point, I've had my reputation falsely tarnished once in my life by a really bad person. I don't want it to happen again, and I would be lying if I said I didn't feel the need for her deeds to be labeled. Baby isn't mine, I have very solid proof of that. I want her unfaithfulness known so it can't be misconstrued in any way, and to just move on with my life. Is serving her at a gathering okay? Edit, I plan to just go forward with the gathering as normal, and as soon as the last person leaves I will pack a bag for her and the baby, and provide her with a printed copy of the paternity test and divorce papers. I do, however, plan to text everyone who attended what transpired as they left, the next day, with a picture of the paternity test. I'm 100% doing this part regardless of what Reddit thinks. At this point, the family gathering is already going to happen. I stupidly suggested this during an emotional bout. Sorry to miscommunicate that. I will suffer through it, so as not to tip her off that I know. I still want to maintain the element of surprise. I think the text will just say, to her family/friends, individually it pains me to have to communicate this to everyone. I saw suspicious behaviors in my wife and came into doubts about the child being mine. I ran 2 paternity tests against the child and both came back showing that she is not mine. I am very sorry to be the bearer of this news that our family will be no more. I wish you the best and hope you will give her the support and the child, as the child has nothing to do with her mistakes. To my family/friends, individually it pains me to have to communicate this to everyone. I saw suspicious behaviors in my wife and came into doubts about the child being mine. I ran 2 paternity tests against the child and both came back showing that she is not mine. I am very sorry to be the bearer of this news that our family will be no more. To my family and friends, I am okay. I just need some time to heal, and I think getting through the divorce will be the first step. Additional edit for clarity. What I mean is that I purchased 2 test kits and administered them as per the test kit's instructions, then mailed them into the lab and paid the fee. The results were uploaded online. This worked very similarly to 23andMe for those of you who have done that. Instead of spitting into a container, it was just a cheek swab, though. The reason for my wording of leading up to the pregnancy is that I wanted to have them on hand so I could act fast and either validate or invalidate my insane emotions, and if I need, act fast on divorcing/relieving myself of liability. Practically walked in on my girlfriend with another guy. Found the freshly used protection in the trash. We had been kind of bickering at each other yesterday morning. I was going to go over to her place in the afternoon. She was going snowshoeing and I had some errands to run, so I went out to try to get my stuff done so I'd be able to go over there as soon as she was back. But she got back an hour later than she said she was going to, and I had already gone home. I wasn't going to go over then, and it really stung that she didn't seem to care. Maybe an hour or so later, I decided to go over. I had been kind of childish before and I thought I would go see her. I was having a rough day, and I really needed the comfort of seeing her, and I wanted to apologize for not coming over earlier. The entire drive across town, all I could think about was what I might find when I got there. The guy she went snowshoeing with was someone she had started hanging out with a lot lately. First, he was going to show her around his gym because she wanted to start working out but was afraid to go in by herself and not know what she was doing. They never made it to the gym. They had lunch or coffee or something, and then a day later or something she mentioned that he had come over there. To the apartment she had been madly cleaning for the last week. I had been having some trust issues with her for a couple of months. She had asked me how I would feel if we had an open relationship because she wanted to try things with other people. I was the only one she had ever had sex with, so I certainly understand that desire, but it just wasn't something I knew I could handle. She wanted to be able to go duck other guys, with no strings attached, just to see what it was like. She wanted a threesome with 2 guys. That was a big fantasy for her. I was working on adjusting my mindset. I wanted to be supportive and open to new things. I just needed to get the jealousy under control. And I told her that. It was something I was trying to learn to accept. I didn't want to keep her from having those experiences. I am so much older than she is, I've had some experience with other people. I didn't want to deprive her of that experience, but I needed some time to adjust to the idea. I parked on the street near her apartment. I knocked lightly on the door and tried to open it, but it was locked. There is a keypad to unlock the door, so I would have been able to just let myself in as long as she didn't have the chain on. But she didn't have the chain on. She put it on as soon as she realized it was me. She said duck, and then I thought I heard whispers. But I didn't want that to be true, so I didn't really hear them. For a few minutes she kept telling me to go away. At first, there was terror and fear in her voice. She knew she had been caught. But she quickly came up with a story that she was mad at me, and was sure that I had just come over there to fight with her about something. She just said she didn't want to talk to me. I finally gave up. I walked back to my car and just started bawling. I started to text her. She just kept saying that she didn't want to see me. And suddenly she asked where I was. I told her I was in my car, and she told me to come in. She had figured out a way to sneak him out. There was a second door in her apartment that went to the basement and the laundry, but there was an exit to the outside that way too. I went in and she was standing there in the living room. I was glad she had finally let me in, but I was still looking around at everything suspiciously. The things she usually kept sitting in front of the basement door were not quite in their usual place. But I didn't want to see it. I took off my shoes and my coat, and I walked over to her and embraced her. I was so madly in love with her, I was just blind to what was going on around me. She started telling me something about the cat or something, and led me into the kitchen. There was no reason to go in there. Afterwards, of course, I realized she was giving him time to escape where I wouldn't see him through the window. She invited me in her room. We usually spend our time there cuddled up in bed. The pillows were arranged, one next to the other. I could see what I later realized was panic in her face when she saw the stains of her own wetness on the sheets. I saw them. But I still didn't see them. We talked and cried and went on about how hard it was for us, that we couldn't be together as much as we wanted. How she felt like she was giving up her dreams for me. She didn't apply for some summer internships out of state, she didn't apply to any other colleges. And in there somewhere, left unsaid, but still heard, that she was giving up on a host of sexual experiences that she longed to have. That she wasn't really giving up after all. I laid there in bed with her. It makes my skin crawl, and I want to vomit. But we laid there and talked and cried. She climbed over me to grab a Kleenex. Either she realized that the used protection or wrapper was still sitting on the top of the garbage can, or maybe had just been sitting on the bedside table. It did strike me as odd that she didn't just ask me to hand the tissues to her. But as she straddled me, I declined to care. We talked and it seemed we had worked things out. Things had been rocky for us for months, partly because I hadn't really trusted her for some time. But I had written it all off to my depression and my anxiety. I just called those thoughts my demons. She had to go to work, so she got ready. She stood there in front of me and changed her shirt. She had dressed in a hurry obviously, so she was only wearing a tank top and a pair of sweats with nothing underneath. She snuck around the corner to pull off her pants and put some underwear on. I don't know if she didn't want me to see that she wasn't wearing any, or what exactly she was hiding from me then. That wasn't a usual thing for her to do. When she was ready, I was going to give her a lift to work. She always just walked. It wasn't far. I kissed her. I kept my lips on hers and I could feel her tense. I kissed her again, but now she had lowered her head to avoid it somewhat. I took her to work. She was texted furiously as we drove. I can only assume to him. To fill him in on what happened after he left. Maybe to tell him that I hadn't suspected anything. But I suspected everything. I pulled away from the parking lot and went straight back to her apartment. I had bought her a few things on my errands earlier that day and I had forgotten to give them to her. I wanted to look around. I wanted to find nothing so desperately. But I knew exactly what I was looking for. I looked at the kitchen garbage can first. The least likely place, but I still was hoping I would find anything. I had to check the small can in the bedroom. I picked the 2 wadded tissues off the top and saw the gold wrapper. It still didn't convince me. Maybe she was just playing around with one. She did that from time to time. Put one on a toy or something. I reached in and pulled it out. Protection, heavy, and full of male seeds. At that moment, I died. I sent her a text to tell her that I had gone back into her apartment, that I had looked in the trash. I didn't expect her to get it unless she had a break in a few hours, or 6 hours later at the end of her shift. But my phone notifies me when she sees my texts. I sent 3 messages to her. Each one was seen, with no reply. Eventually she wrote back something about that she was sorry. Then that she had left work, that she had thrown up. She asked for some confirmation that I wasn't going to hurt myself. I've attempted it, although feebly, once before. She tried to call, and I rejected it. The last I heard was text a few hours later. Simply, be well. The ellipsis was replaced by her pet name for me. I have no one I can talk to about any of this. I didn't sleep much last night. I woke up thinking it was much later, but I had only managed to stay asleep for an hour. I wrote her a rather lengthy email. I needed to explain everything I saw. How much I had wanted it to be simply my demons. How angry and hurt I am. I needed her to understand what she did. She never gave me any words of remorse. The only sorry was not for what she had done, but that she hadn't done a better job of keeping it from me. I am lost. Directionless, floating in an abyss. I am an empty shell. I feel completely devoid of all life. I am already dead. My body just has not caught up to this fact yet. I don't want to die. I want to turn it off. The worst part is that I could forgive her. I love her. I'm really far less hurt than I feel I should be. But I could never trust her again. I know how things go on this sub. I don't expect any comments. Just a note to say you listened would be nice. Update: I want to thank all of you for all of your kind words. You should know that we have split up. Our relationship had been rocky for several months. It was bound to end. I just wouldn't let it go. I'm so much older than her, and she has a lot of growing up to do. She's not ready for me yet. I went to work today. I made someone come with me on my route. I couldn't be alone. I was afraid I'd steer myself into an oncoming truck. I've had the last hour at home by myself. We talked a little this morning. I want to be her friend, even though she did this horrible thing to me. I've been where she is today. Hell, I've been where I am now before. More than once. I sure know how to pick them. All the more reason that it is so hard not to blame myself though. For times I've been through this. Part of me still cares and wants to help her figure it out without having to go through the decade of pain and misery that I experienced trying to figure out life for myself. I need some time away. A little time to heal. A little time to detach. I don't think that's ever really going to work though. Keep reading and you'll find out what I just found out. I asked her about STDs just now. She's dancing around the question a little. That's not very promising. Her and I hadn't done anything before she hooked up with this guy, but she apparently blew some other guy a few weeks ago. I'll have to go get tested then. I feel like I'm going to be sick. I'm home by myself now. I stayed at work just hanging around for several hours so I didn't have to come home and be alone. I rescheduled a job interview I had tomorrow so I could finally have a real, full-time job after being unemployed or underemployed for several months. I talked to my mom on the phone, but I couldn't bring myself to mention anything. Someone is here now so I don't have to sit here alone. I think I'll be okay. I love you all. Thank you. Update 2, I'm sorry I couldn't reply to everyone. I'll keep trying. Thank you all so much. I'm trying very hard to be bigger than all this. Right now, I just feel so sorry for her. She's just a depraved little girl who has to re herself out in order to feel good about herself. It makes me very sad for her. She could be so much more. I've got my meds in order again too. I ran out and went a few days before I could get a refill. Being off the meds for a few days seriously ducks with me. My wife has a year-long affair with her coworker. I dumped her. She drops back and wants remarriage. My ex and I met in college and were madly in love all 4 years in school. Got married after graduation in 2010. In 2013, I caught her in a year-plus affair with a coworker. I was crushed. She said they loved each other, soulmates, didn't mean to hurt anyone, blah blah blah. We divorced only 3 months later. I was crushed. Worst time in my life. I mourned for over a year. I heard they got married. One day I decided I was tired of being sad, so I completely let go of her in my heart, got off my butt and truly moved on. I'm a programmer by profession and decided to take a pre-sales solutions consultant gig with one of the biggest software companies on the planet. That job has been amazing. I've traveled the entire world. Every continent and all the major cities. Life has been a great adventure. I never did date seriously or remarry. I'm not opposed to casual dating and have dated beautiful women all over the globe. After my experience with marriage, I decided that wasn't my path and have been happy. Sometimes lonely, especially during holidays, but overall happy. I had decided enough traveling for a while, so I switched roles and am based in a major city in the US. I'm sitting in a diner on a Saturday morning eating breakfast and reading the news, Facebook, Reddit, etc., and somebody says my name? Oh my God. The voice sounded like one of my women friends at work, so I looked up to say hi and my jaw dropped. It's my ex-wife. Here I am 2,000 plus miles away from our old hometown, haven't seen her in almost 6 years, and there she is. I was dumbstruck. All I could manage was hi. I hate to say it, but she looked beautiful. She said I looked amazing. She asked if I was busy and that she didn't want to bother me, but that she'd love to talk. I said sure. We ended up talking for over 2 hours and continued for another couple of hours when we went for a walk in a close-by park. We were making small talk about mutual acquaintances, my stories of traveling the globe. Everything but the elephant in the room. She finally asks me if I had gotten remarried at any point. I said no, once was enough. She seemed sad by that. We walked in silence for maybe a minute, and she said, "I have to say that I'm so sorry for what I did to you. You didn't deserve it. It was incredibly crappy and has haunted me since it happened. You didn't do anything wrong. I said you fell in love with someone else and married them. I couldn't stop you from doing that. I wanted you to be happy." Then I asked, "Are you happy?" She laughed one of those joke laughs, ha. She told me the OM and her fought constantly and he ended up cheating on her and leaving her 2 years into marriage. I said I'm sorry that happened to you. I know how bad that can hurt. She said she knew. That when her heart was broken all she could think of was that she had done the same thing to me and that tortured her. She said she fell apart for almost a year, engaged in very self-destructive behavior, and then went to therapy to figure out why she's so screwed up. She said that was extremely helpful and several years ago she finally grew up and holds herself accountable for her own actions now. She had ended up moving to this city because she has an aunt that she loves that lives there, and after her second divorce, before age 30 she needed to make big changes in her life. The changes were noticeable. She's definitely more mature. I had to go and get ready for the evening with friends, so we said our goodbyes. We exchanged contact info and agreed to go have coffee and talk more. We have been doing that. We're both single. I guess there's no harm. I can tell she wants more from me. She wants me to want her back. She drops hints as big as the Pacific Ocean. I'm not dumb. I have to admit she still has that certain something that just makes my heart skip a beat. Something I can't describe. Something I hadn't found in anyone else since her. I guess it's chemistry between us. To be honest, I want to be more than friends. I want to hold her and kiss her. She wants that too, but yet I've made 0 moves. What holds me back? Fear. I'm afraid of getting hurt again. If she had been a casual girlfriend that dumped me, I would have shaken it off and moved on quickly. She wasn't though. She was my wife and the love of my life. I used to dream of her somehow coming back into my life. Well, here it is and I'm scared crapless. I don't know if I can give her that much of myself again. I'm way more protective of my heart now. We've both grown a lot and the past seems like 100 years ago. If she wasn't who she is, I'd already be head over heels in love. I struggle with, do I pursue love with her again, or do I leave the past in the past? It sounds cliché, but it just had to be her. Of all the people I could have met here, it had to be her. Update. I've gotten so many requests for an update. I have one but was hesitant to post because in this sub I take a lot of grief. The update is we got remarried over the Christmas holidays and we're now pregnant. She has grown a lot as a person. So have I. We're not kids anymore. We're in an adult relationship and it's much better than before. Throw in the chemistry we've always had and it's wonderful. I couldn't be happier. I do want to address the accusations that she tracked me down. She didn't. She had moved to our current city before I did. She really had moved on, went to therapy, and had grown a lot as a person. I just happened to be in that diner. We think it had to be fate or some type of intervening force. Neither of us are religious, but the astronomical odds of us running into each other, both single, and in a city neither of us had ever lived in, are hard to ignore. Obviously, the universe had a plan for us. I wish all of you good luck. My only advice is don't close your heart. You never know who will stroll into your life.